ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च। So now we are in the second valli of the second chapter, second adhyaya, second valli. And Bhagwan Yamadharma Raja, the Acharya, says that since this knowledge about the Atma Jnanam, is a very, very subtle topic, he wants to again give the same knowledge again in the first valli of the second chapter and the second valli of the second chapter also, because of the subtlety of this knowledge and because of the difficulty in understanding this knowledge. The Acharya wants to give the core of the teachings of Upanishad. The first chapter, a large part of it went in the story and in the praise of the Brahma Vidya Acharya, the Brahma Vidya Shishya, etc. But it's the second chapter, the first valli and the second valli of the second chapter, which are really going to talk about the very core of the teaching of Vedanta. And what Nachiketa wanted to know was, what is this Atma? And then this particular sections, first and the second sections, or first valli and the second valli of the second chapter, are dealing with this very, very important thing. And we saw the first two verses of the second valli. In this, I would like to do a little bit of revision on this, because the first two verses of the second valli of the second chapter are very, very important, because here the Sarvatma Bhava is being talked about. What is the meaning of Sarvatma Bhava? That I see the same Atma in everything, not only in me, but in everything around me. This is what is called as the Sarva Atma Bhava. It is the same Atma, me, that is not only behind this body mind sense complex, but that which is behind all the body mind sense complexes, and that which is behind the entire Jagat of multifarious names and forms. So, this is what is called as the Sarvatma Bhava. The Sarvatma Bhava of Atma, Atma being the Sarvatma, the same consciousness everywhere in everything, one without a second. That is what is being talked about in the first two verses. So we must understand one thing here, that the Vedantic teaching goes in three stages. In three steps, the Vedantic teaching goes. The first step of Vedantic teaching is to say that, to make me understand that I, the individual jiva, it starts from the individual jiva, the Vedantic teaching. It says, I, the jiva, is a combination of Atma, the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma, or the pure consciousness, along with the Anatma, body mind sense complex. The Anatma, body mind sense complex, and the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma together is what I call as I. But at present, my idea of myself is what? I am the body mind sense complex. This is my idea. I am the body mind sense complex. And I am not aware that I am actually speaking my reality, my real nature, the real stuff by with which I am made is this Atma. Anatma body mind sense complex is an incidental upadhi that I, the Atma, is having. This is, the first stage where the Atma Anatma Viveka is done of the Tvam Padartha, and then the Upanishads or the scriptures tell me you are not the Anatma body mind sense complex, but you are that consciousness which is actually the very adhishtanam of this body mind sense complex. That consciousness which is behind this body mind sense complex. This is the first stage of Vedantic teaching. In the second stage, the scriptures, Vedantic scriptures say, this consciousness, which is behind this particular body, mind, sense complex, anatma, is the same consciousness which is there behind all the body, mind, sense complexes, which is there behind all the body, mind, sense complexes. That is the second stage. So we can see how in Bhagavad Gita Lord Krishna explained Atma Anatma Viveka and what is the real nature of I, the individual, as Atma, was talked about in the first six chapters, which is called as the Atma Anatma Viveka or Tvam Pada Vichara. Then the second step where this the same consciousness which is not only behind this body mind sense complex but that which is behind every other body mind sense complex. This is what was told in the 13th chapter by Bhagwan, saying that Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Then the third level of teaching of Vedanta is this consciousness is not only within, but this consciousness or Atma is everywhere, all pervading. All the jivas are placed in this consciousness. In me, all the jivas are there in me. They are posited in me, the consciousness. The whole universe arises in me, it is sustained in me, and it is resolved in me. So ultimately, what am I? I am that consciousness behind this body mind sense complex. This body mind sense complex is a mere appearance, an upadhi, anatma. Second stage, it is the same consciousness which is behind this body mind sense complex, which is there behind all the other body mind sense complexes, all the jivas. And the third stage is where the Upanishads say that it is in this consciousness that the whole universe, all the jivas are placed. Then what is the connection, or what is that which connects me to the world? Then what is the connection between me and the matter? What is matter? The body mind sense complex is the matter. The world with its multiple names and forms is the matter. What is the connection then between me, the Atma, and this world called as the matter or the names and forms? And finally, Vedanta says, I, the Atma. Vedanta says, you, the Atma. So I have to take it as I, the Atma, am the very Adhishtanam of all the names and forms in the entire Jagat. Therefore, who am I? I am that consciousness which is behind this body mind sense complex in this Vyashti Sharira. It is the same consciousness which is behind everything in this Jagat, and ultimately, I am that consciousness in which all the jivas, the entire jagat, is born, exists, and disappears. Or the body mind sense complex of all the jivas and the entire universe is an appearance in me, this Atma. This is what is the final teaching of the Upanishads, and that is what is being explained in the first verse and the second verse of the second Valli of the second chapter, which we are seeing. In the first verse, what did the Upanishad say? Puram ekadashadvaram ajasya avakrachetasah अनुष्ठाय न शोचति विमुक्तश्च विमुच्यते एतद्वैतत्. This Atma that you asked for, Nachiketa, it is that, Yetat Vaitat. Whatever you asked for is this. What is this? It is that unchanging witness consciousness, the Chaitanya Atma, which is present in this Puram Ekadasham. In this Puram or in this whatever you call like a city of Ekadasha Dwarani. That is a city of 11 gates. That consciousness, because of which this city of 11 gates is functioning, is that which is the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma, which does not change. Ajaha, that which is not born, that which is not dead, that which does not undergo any vikaras, avakra chetasaha, that which does not undergo any vikaras. It is this consciousness behind you, this body, mind, sense complex, and it is that very same consciousness which is present behind all the other body, mind, sense complexes also. Anushtaya na shochati. Anushtaya means having understood this. This mumukshu who understands by Atma Anatma Viveka that whatever is the stuff with which I am made, my real Swarupam is not the body mind sense complex, but it is this consciousness which is behind this body mind sense complex, and that which is present, the same thing which is present in all the other body mind sense complexes. When I understand that, I don't see any difference between me and the other jivas. Jiva Bheda is absolutely considered and seen as mithya. I don't see any difference because this body, mind, sense, or organism itself is mithya. Therefore, all the other body, mind, sense complexes are mithya. And what is the reality? It is this Sakshi Chaitanya Atma behind this body, mind, sense complex also, behind all the other body, sense, mind, sense complexes also. Such a person is free from samsara, vimuktaha. He is a jivan muktaha. He is free from this samsara. Vimuktascha vimuchyate. And such a person, this person who has understood this very clearly, does not come back again to take newer bodies again and again. He is forever free from the cycles of birth and death. So, from the Vyashti point of view, from the individual point of view, what is this Atma was talked about in the first verse. In the second verse, also, we took last time, we read the verse last time, chanted the verse last time. What it says is, it is the same consciousness which is present behind the entire universe of various names and forms. So, what did he say here? Ham saha shuchishad. Ham saha shuchishad. Ham saha means the sun. It is the same consciousness which is behind this sun, which is seen by us, Shuchishad. That sun which is seen in the space by us is nothing but this consciousness. Vasuhu antarikshasat. Vasuhu means the Vayu which is moving about in the space. It is nothing but this Atma. See, the samashti is being taken here. Vyashti was talked about, that is individual body. What is this Atma with relationship to the individual body, mind, sense complex? Anatma was talked about in the first verse. Second verse talks about the total, the samashti or the total. And it says, Ham saha shuchishad. That sun which is moving, hamsaha means that moving sun. Normally sun does not move, but we see the sun moving. We see the sun rising and setting. So hamsaha, that light of consciousness behind the sun, which we see rising and setting in the space every day, is nothing but this Atma. Vasuhu antariksha sat. That Vayu which is moving about in the antariksham, that is nothing but this Atma only. Hota Vedishad, the Agni or the fire principle in the earth is nothing but this consciousness. Atitihi Durodasat, Atitihi who comes to the house wanting food and shelter is nothing but this Atma. Drishasad, Drishad, Drishad means that consciousness behind every human being. Varasad, that consciousness behind all the devas and all the other exalted beings in all the worlds, all the lokas. Drishat, Varasad, Then Ritasad. Ritasad means that consciousness which is behind all the yajnas and yagas that one does. For what sake? For all the inviting, invoking various devatas during a yaga yajna. What is behind that? Ritam, Rita here means all the yagas and yajnas that are done. That consciousness which is behind them is nothing but the same consciousness. Vyoma Sat, that consciousness which is behind the space, that consciousness because of which the space is space, Vyomasad, Abja, anything which is produced out of water, all the water plants, the water animals, anything that exists in water, what is it? That is the Adhishtanam of Abja. All the water creations or whatever is there in the water, what is it? That is the Adhishtanam. It is this Atma. Goja. Go means here the earth, whatever is the produce of the earth. The plants are produced by the earth, all the vrihi, yavadi, food is produced by the earth, oshadis are produced by the earth. So, whatever is that which is minerals are given by the earth. There are so many things that are given by the earth, the produce of the earth, goja, born on the earth, including the living organisms and the non living things also. That consciousness, that existence which is there behind all the objects which are given by the earth, Goja, Ritaja, Karma phala got out of all the yagas and yajnas. Ritaja. Ritaja. Rita means the yagas, yajnas, karmas that are done. And whatever result or phalam that is got out of it is called as Ritaja. Adrija. Whatever is given by the mountains, whatever is a produce of the mountains, Adrija. What is that? Ritam Brihat. It is nothing but this all pervading consciousness. Ritam, it is the Satyam, it is the Sat, Chit, Ananda Atma, Brihat. That's why it is called as Brahman. From the Brah Dhatu it comes, it is that same consciousness which is called as Brahman. Ritam Brahat. It is the Satyam, it is the reality which is all pervading, which is big, Brahat, also called as Brahman. It is the same Atma which is behind Hamsaha, the sun, Vasuhu, the Vayu, then Hota, the Agni in the earth, Athitihi, who comes to the house, Nrisha, in a human being, Vara, in exalted beings everywhere, then Rita, all the yagas, yajnas that are done, then Vyoma in the space, then Abja, all that exists in water, Goja, all that exists on the earth, Adrija, all that exists on the mountains. Ultimately, what is this? It is this consciousness. It is this very consciousness which I call as Atma, which the Upanishad calls as Atma, which Yamadharma Raja calls as Atma, which is behind the individual body mind sense complex, is nothing but that which is behind everything in the Samashti also. Therefore, ultimately, the first verse and second verse are talking about the Atma as Sarvatma, that consciousness which is behind every living being, the Vyashtitaya, that consciousness which is behind everything, Samashtitaya, whatever we see, it is nothing but this particular consciousness. Now, as I said, this section and the next section are talking a lot about the Atma and its Swarupam itself. So, in the first two verses, Yamadharma Raja has not left anything behind. He says the individual consciousness I is not an individual consciousness, but it is the Sarvatma. It is that consciousness which is present behind everything, Vyashtitaya, Samashtitaya. There is only one thing, Ekameva Advitiya Atma. It is only this consciousness that is there. There is nothing other than this consciousness. Everything else that is experienced, everything else that is seen is nothing but the name and form anatma, and therefore mithya. The ultimate satyam, the paramarthika satyam, in the vyashti also, in the samashti also, both in the vyashti and samashti, there is only one thing, ekam eva advitiya atma. This is the beautiful way in which the Vyashti and the Samashti being one and the same has been explained by Yamadharmaraja, and it is one same consciousness because of which the Vyashti Jiva exists, the Samashti Prapancha also exists. It is the very Adhishtanam of the Vyashti Jivas also, the Samashti Jagat also. That is what was told in the first and the second verses. Now, in the third verse, he says, what is it that keeps this individual Jiva sentient and surviving? What is it because of which this jiva survives? He says in the next verse, Urdhvam pranam unnayati apanam pratyagasyati madhye vamanam asinam vishve deva upasate. What do we generally say? We say that the human being or any jiva is alive because of the prana. The inhalation and exhalation, the prana. Exhalation, urdhvagamana vayu, is called as the prana. Inhalation, the adhogamana vayu, is called as apana. So, we say that the prana is functioning, the inhalation, exhalation is going on, and therefore the jiva is alive. But what Yama wants to say is, Atma is the one, this consciousness is the one because of which even the prana is functioning. Prana is jada. Just like the sthula sharira is jada, the sukshma sharira is also jada. The sukshma sharira may be subtler than the sthula sharira, but the sukshma sharira is also jada. By itself, the sukshma sharira cannot function. We have already seen in Bhagavad Gita also, we have already seen in the Vivek Chudamani also, that this Atma reflects itself. In the last session only I said reflected consciousness. It doesn't mean that there are two consciousnesses. There is one consciousness, Atma, which gets reflected in the Buddhi, and that reflection of me, the consciousness, along with the Buddhi and the rest of the Sukshma Sharira is called as the Jiva. Once the Abhasa Chaitanyam or the reflection forms in the Buddhi sends this sentience or consciousness to the entire Sukshma Sharira, including the prana. And then this Sukshma Sharira lends that consciousness to the Sthula Sharira also. That is why we feel that the Sthula Sharira, I am alive, I am sentient. The Sukshma Sharira also is sentient. From where is it borrowed? The Sthula Sharira is also Jada. The Sukshma Sharira is also Jada. Why? Because it is Panchabhautika. Panchikrita Panchamahabhutani is Sthula Sharira. Apanchikrita Panchabhutani is Sukshma Sharira, which we have already seen in Viveka Chudamani. Anything which is made up of Panchabhautika or Panchabhutas, anything which is made of Panchabhutas, which is called as Panchabhautika, is an elemental. It is Jada. Sthula Sharira is also as Jada as Sukshma Sharira. I should put it the other way. The Sukshma Sharira, though it is subtler than the Sthula Sharira, is as Jada as the Sthula Sharira. What is it that makes the Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira sentient? What is made sentient is this Atma Chaitanya which gets reflected, Chidabhasa which is formed in the Buddhi. This Chidabhasa lends existence to the Sukshma Sharira first, and Sukshma Sharira gets totally invigorated with consciousness or sentience. And this Sukshma Sharira in turn transfers this sentience to the Sthula Sharira. And therefore he says, this Vayu, which is the Prana Vayu, Urdhvam Pranam Unnayati. What is it that takes the exhalation prana upwards. It is the Atma Chaitanya. By reflecting in the Buddhi, through the reflection called as Chidabhasa, it is ultimately this Atma Chaitanya, original Atma only, which makes the prana to function in the body. The exhalatory prana functions because of this Atma. The apana prana or the apana vayu, the inhalatory prana, also because of functions because of this Atma manifesting in the form of reflected consciousness or jiva. So what happens? Urdhvam pranam unnayati. The outward going or exhalatory prana, it is this Atma which makes the prana go out, prana, and apanam pratyagasyati. It is this Atma Chaitanya through the Chidabhasa makes this apanavayu come in into the body. And this breathing, apana prana goes on and on and on till the death of the physical body takes place. What is the death of the physical body? It is the prana which leaves the physical body along with the entire Sukshma Sharira. When the entire Sukshma Sharira leaves the Sthula Sharira, this Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Viyoga is called as death. But as long as this Chidabhasa is there in the body, as long as the Jiva is there in the body, the Atma continues to make the prana sentient through the Chidabhasa. Not directly, the prana cannot direct, the Atma cannot directly invigorate, but through indirectly, through the Chidabhasa, it makes the prana sentient. That is why when the Chidabhasa along with the Sukshma Sharira and Prana, leaves the physical body, even though the Atma is there everywhere, the physical body cannot directly absorb this life or sentience from main Atma or the original Atma or the Atma. Please be very careful. There are no two Atmas. There is no original and reflected. Only for the sake of teaching, we use this. The reflected consciousness, which is called as the Pratibimba Chaitanyam or Abhasa Chaitanyam, is the one which transmits the sentience or the life from Atma Chaitanyam, from this Chaitanya Atma to the entire Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira. First to Sukshma Sharira, prana gets invigorated and the Jiva starts breathing and the Jiva is alive. And immediately the Sthula Sharira also gets the same sentience from the Sukshma Sharira. It's like a relay race where the baton is passed from one person to the other. Till the end of this life, till the prana continues, the Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira are together, Samyoga, which is called as birth and living. And at the time of death, the Sukshma Sharira, along with the prana, leaves the physical body, along with the Chidabhasa, which is called as the traveling Jiva. But then he says here, Madhye Vamanam Asinam. Where is this consciousness, light? Where is this beautiful Vamanam? Where is this beautiful light Swarupi, Chaitanya Rupi, Atma? Where is it posited? Madhye Vamanam Asinam. Hridaya Madhye. Hridaya Guha Madhye. Buddhi Guha Madhye. In the Buddhi Guha, we find that this particular Atma, along with the Chidabhasa, is present in the Hridaya Guha. Vishve Deva Upasate. Vishve Deva Upasate means all the Devas are worshipping this Vamana. Here we must understand Devas means here all the sense organs. All the sense organs, because they light up the objective world, the sense organs are also called as Devas. So in this physical body, it is this Atma, through the agency of Chidabhasa, makes the Sukshma Sharira and the Prana sentient and makes the Prana to go out and in the form of exhalation and inhalation, keeps the body alive. Where is this Atma found? Madhye Vamanam Asinam. This Chaitanya Rupi Atma, this light Rupi Atma is present in the Hridaya Guha of every living being, and it is being served by all the devas. All the sense organs are serving this. In the sense, what it means is all the sense organs are also dependent upon this consciousness for their activity. Then, in the fourth verse, in the next, let's go to the fourth. अस्य विसृंसमानस्य शरीरस्थस्य देहिनः देहाद्विमुच्यमानस्य किमत्र परिशिष्यते ये तत्. Again, the same thing. Yamadharmaraja is explaining what this Atma is in many, many forms. He says, Asya Visrimsamanasya. This particular Jiva, whose body is something which is one day going to get destroyed, or one day which is going to really disappear. At the time of death, what happens? This Thula Sharira is left behind by the Sukshma Sharira. The Sukshma Sharira leaves the Sthula Sharira and goes away. And this Shiryamana Shariraha means this degenerating, decaying Shariraha is left behind. Asya Visrimsamanasya Sharirastha Dehinaha. This Dehi or this consciousness which is present in the Deha. Who is this Dehi? The Chidabhasa, that is the reflected consciousness, along with the Sukshma Sharira, Prana, everything. Now, what happens at the time of death? He says, at the time of death, what is happening? He is telling here. At the time of death, though the Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira are sentient now during life, at the time of death, when the prarabdhas are over, the Udana Vayu takes the entire Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, and the Chidabhasa along with all the Karma Phala bundle and leaves the physical body. This Sukshma Sharira, Chidabhasa with the karmas, all the Sanchita karmas, this whole package is called as the traveling Jiva. So the traveling jiva. So visramsamanasya sharirasthasya dehina dehad vimuchyamanasya. Who is it that is leaving the body? It is the jivatma that is leaving the body. It is not the Paramatma. It is not the Atma because the Atma cannot leave anywhere. The Atma is wherever it is. The Atma cannot move. The Atma cannot shift anywhere. So ultimately, what is it that is moving? It is this Chidabhasa Sahita Sukshma Sharira with the Karma Phalas is leaving this physical body. Dehad Vimucha Manasya Kimatra Parishishyate. What is remaining? Nothing remains. Only the dead physical body remains. And Atma is there everywhere. Atma does not travel. The original, the consciousness does not travel anywhere. It does not move from one place to the other. The consciousness is there. But that medium which makes this physical body also sentient, this medium which transfers the sentience from the Atma to the physical body is no longer there. The Sukshma Sharira is a mere reflecting medium, and the Sukshma Sharira, along with the Chidabhasa, has left and gone away from the physical body. So, what remains? The traveling Jiva has gone away. What remains? The dead body remains, which has to be disposed of as early as possible. But then the Atma, the original, as it is unaffected. So, what leaves the physical body? It is the Jiva which leaves the physical body. What is the Jiva? It is the reflection of consciousness, which is called as the Chidabhasa, along with the Sukshma Sharira and all the Karma Phalas which are accumulated in the Karana Sharira. This package leaves the physical body. So, what remains? Kimatra Parishishyate. The Jivatma is no longer there, nothing remains. Only the Atma remains as it is, unaffected by any traveling Jiva. Whether the Jiva comes back into another body, whether Jiva leaves this body, another Jiva is taking another body, it does not matter to the Atma. The Atma by itself is absolutely all pervading, non moving, nirvikari. What remains, tatra kim parishishyate, the jiva does not persist anymore. Only the dead body persists. But the Atma, the Chit Atma, the Sat Chit Atma is as usual pervading everything. It is pervading the dead body also. But the reflecting medium is not there, which transmits this life or Chaitanya Tattvam to the physical body. The physical body is gross and it cannot directly tap the Chaitanyam from Atma. We need the Sukshma Sharira, which is the reflecting medium, which reflects the Atma Chaitanyam and transfers it to the physical body. So, Asya Visrimsamanasya Sharirasthasya Dehinaha, this Dehi, this Jivatma, who's nothing but the Abhasa Chaitanyam, Chidabhasa, along with the Sukshma Sharira, Asya Visramsamanasya, from this, when this sharira becomes bhrashta, or when this sharira becomes dead, what happens? This jivatma leaves the physical body along with the karma phala. Dehad vimuchyamanasya. Once this jiva has gone, Atma Chaitanya is left behind, but Atma Chaitanya is there by itself. And then Kimatra Parishishyate, what is left behind? Nothing is left behind. Nothing is left behind means what? Jivatma is not left behind. It's no longer that particular name and form, particular Jiva whom we have transacted with. Of course, the original consciousness is all the time there. And how did this Sukshma Sharira become sentient? From where did it get this sentience? It got it from Atma. From the original Atma itself, this Sukshma Sharira got that sentience or Chaitanyam through the agency of Chidabhasa. Therefore, in the next verse, in the fifth verse, he says, Na pranena na apanena martyo jivati kaschana itarena tu jivanti yasminyetavupashritau. So, Nachiketa, don't think that a jiva is alive because of the prana. Don't think that the prana and apana are the ones who are keeping this jiva alive. No. What is it that is keeping this jiva alive? It is this Atma. The Atma transmitting its Chaitanyam through the Chidabhasa to the Sukshma Sharira and the Prana. This is the way the Sukshma Sharira and the Prana are made sentient, and this Prana keeps the Jiva alive. Don't think that this Prana and Apana independently are keeping the Jiva alive. No. So he says, Na pranena, na apanena, martyo jivati kaschana. Martyaha means a human being or any jiva. Any jiva which dies, which is born and dead, it's called as martyaha. So martyaha, any jiva which is living and which dies, na jivati kaschana. It does not live pranena va apanena. Pranena na apanena martyo jivati kaschana. It is neither the prana nor the apana because of which the jiva is surviving. Itarena tu jivanti. There is something else. There is something else because of which this jiva is alive through the prana. There is something else which makes this prana alive, after which the whole body mind sense complex becomes alive. And what is this itarena, itara? What is this other? It is this Atma. It is this Atma Chaitanya through the agency of Abhasa Chaitanya makes the Sukshma Sharira sentient and in turn makes the Sthula Sharira also sentient. I'm repeating it again and again. I know that. I'm repeating again and again because there is always a doubt as to who is this Jiva? What is this prana? Is the prana sentient by itself? No. If the prana is sentient by itself, then there would never be anything called as the birth and death. It would not have been there. Now, the very fact that the prana is the breathing in and breathing out is going on, And if the Sthula Sharira was also sentient all the time, there would never be any death also. So, what he means here, Yamadharmaraja means here is that it is neither the prana nor the apana because of which the jiva is alive. There is some other principle, itarena. Prana and apana are also anatma. Just like the physical body, the Sukshma Sharira is also anatma. Prana being a part of Sukshma Sharira, that is also anatma. Itarena tu jivanti. The whole body, the entire jiva is alive because of itarena tu jivanti. Yasmin yetau upashritau, in which the prana and apana are established, in which, from which the prana and apana take ashraya. Yasmin yetau prana apanau upashritau. This prana and apana are depending upon this Atma Chaitanyam for their existence. Then we'll go to the next verse. This Vyashti and Samashti, how the Vyashti Jiva and the Samashti Atma is present everywhere, that has been told in all these verses. Now let us go to the sixth verse. And in the sixth verse, what does he say? Let us see. Hantata idam pravakshami guhyam brahma sanatanam yatha cha maranam prapya Atma bhavati Gautama. Another name for Nachiketa, Gautama. So Yamadharma Raja is calling Nachiketa by various names. So he's calling him Hey Gautama, he's calling him Gautama. Hanta, Hey Gautama, now Hanta, okay. Hanta means okay, from now on, fine. When we say all this, Hanta, okay, fine. All this time I told you about this Atma, which is, as the Vyashti Adhishtanam, Samashti Adhishtanam, and that a jiva is alive not by prana and apana, but it is because of the chaitanyam of this Atma that it is alive. When the jivatma leaves the body, nothing remains. The abhasa chaitanya doesn't remain, but the original, that is the Atma, Chit Sat Chit Atma, remains. That is what he has told in all these five verses. Now, Hanta. Ta te idam pravakshami. Hantam te idam pravakshami. Okay. Now I am going to talk to you about more about Guhyam Brahma Sanatanam. About this Brahman. Sanatanam Brahman. That Brahman which is Sanatanam, which is infinite, which is imperishable, which is nityam, which is all the time there, infinite, imperishable Brahman. That Brahman I am going to talk to you again. Because Nachiketa, this is a very difficult topic. Not difficult because of the topic itself, but because of its subtlety. It is that Brahman which is everything, that which is behind everything, that which is the consciousness behind everything. But to understand this, we have a limitation in our brains because our intellects are not so fully prepared for this knowledge. A prepared intellect will understand it very clearly. Therefore, the Upanishads for the Madhyama Adhikaris, for Uttama Adhikari, repetition is not necessary. For Madhyama Adhikaris like us, we are mumukshus. We are studying the Upanishads, but still our intellects are not as well prepared to grasp this knowledge as being told in one take. Therefore, the Acharyas of the Upanishad talk about the same Atma Swarupa again and again and again in different forms, in various ways, so that at least in one way or the other, the not the Manda, Madhyama Adhikari at least understands what is happening. So, Hanta Te Idam Pravakshami. Now, I am going to talk to you about what? Guhyam Brahma Sanatanam. About this Guhya, this very, very difficult and a secret and a deep subject called as Brahma Sanatanam. This ever existing, never perishable, infinite Brahman I am going to talk about. Yathacha maranam prapya atma bhavati Gautama. Yatha cha prapya. Knowing this Atma, knowing this Brahman, what happens to the individual after death, that is what I am going to talk to you about. So here he's going to say what happens to a wise person after death and what happens to a ignorant person after death. A person who knows Brahman in this life itself is already told Anushtaya na shochati in the previous verses. A person who knows that I am this Brahman, which is the Adhishtanam of every Vyashti Jiva and the Adhishtanam of the whole universe. When I understand this, then I am free once and for all here and now, Sadhyo Mukti or Jivan Mukti, and I don't come back again and again into the cycles of birth and death. That is what he has already talked about. But now he wants to say that what happens to a person who has not understood this? The person who still sees a bheda between jiva jiva. I'm different from you. You're different from me. I'm different from somebody else. When a person does not see the ekatvam of Atma, when a person is not able to understand the sarvatmakatvam of Atma, when a person still sees the bheda between jiva and jiva, bheda between jiva and jagat, and the bheda between jagat and jiva and Ishvara, what happens to such a person? And what happens to a person who has seen the oneness of the Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara in the form of the Adhishtanam Brahman being the same? That is what is going to be talked about. Atma Bhavati Gautama means what happens to this particular human being who has understood this and who has not understood this. So now in the seventh verse, what happens to this person who has not understood this oneness of the Atma behind every jiva and the universe? That is what is going to be talked about. So what happens? I have not understood I am the Atma. I have not understood that it is the same Atma which is the Adhishtanam of all the jivas and the entire Jagat. It is the same Atma which is the Adhishtanam of the entire Vyashti Prapancha and the Samashti Prapancha. I have not understood. And I leave this physical body. This Jiva, traveling Jiva, that is the Chidabhasa with the Sukshma Sharira, with all my karma phalas, mute, I leave this physical body and why I go away. What happens to such a Jiva? What happens to me when I leave without understanding the oneness of Atma? He says in the seventh verse, Yoni madhye prapadyante शरीरत्वाय देहिनः स्थाणुमन्ये अनुसम्यन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम्. So what happens to the traveling jiva? See, we must understand that the moment you say the traveling jiva, that means I have not understood the Atma. The jiva will travel only when I have not understood the Atma. It is only an ignorant person's jiva which travels. A jnani's jiva does not travel. Why? Because his ignorance is gone. His karana shariram is gone. The sthula shariram gets merged into the panchabhutas. The sukshma sharira then and there at the time of death gets merged into the respective devatas. The karma is completely gone. We have seen that in Bhagavad Gita. This knowledge completely burns away. Bhasmasat kurute. All the karmani bhasmasat, sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute. So what is there to travel? Nothing is there to travel. So sthula sharira gone in both jnani and ajnani. In the ajnani, the sukshma sharira with the karma phala travels. What happens in a jnani? In a jnani, all the karma phalas are already burnt by this knowledge, so there is no karana which is necessary for this sukshma sharira to travel and take another body. So what happens in a jnani? Nothing is traveling. It is all over there. A Jivan Mukta is a Videha Mukta. There is no question of the traveling Jiva. But in me, in a person like me, Ajnani, all of us, what happens? Yoni Madhye Prapadyante Sharirattvaya Dehinaha. This Dehi or this Chidabhasa Sahita Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, which is called as the traveling Jiva, it is what happens to it after it gets out of the body. There is some other, the Upanishads and Brahma Sutra talk about, what is its fate. There is a thing called Panchagni Vidya, which talks about, what happens to this jiva, but here it is not relevant. But this traveling jiva goes after getting another body. Till it gets another body, where is this jiva? We don't know. It is there in the Sukshma form, it is there somewhere in the universe. And then it is waiting to embody itself into a physical body. Now, if you ask, how much time does it take? After this jiva leaves the dead body at the time of death, how long does it take for this jiva to come back into another body, human body or any other body? How long does it take? There is no answer for that, because the time limit or the time scale here in this world is according to our physical body. Our physical world is determining the time. There, the physical body is not there. The time scale is very different there, where the jiva is traveling. Therefore, it is not possible to say whether this jiva comes back in 1 day or 1 year or 10 years or how many years it takes to come back. We do not know. That is not known. But this traveling jiva, yoni madhye prapadyante, it goes looking after, looking, searching for a womb to appear. It goes searching for a yoni. It goes searching for a womb from which it can appear again in some other body form. Shariratvaya, for the sake of embodying itself into another sharira. What kind of sharira it may be? It may be a human sharira, it may be a deva sharira, it may be an exalted sharira, it may be an animal sharira, it may be even a sthanu sharira. Sthanu means what? Plant sharira. See, our Upanishads say, our scriptures say that a human being, automatically will not come as a human being. Depending upon the karma phalas, a human being can be next time born as anything. Can be born as a plant, can be born as a cockroach, can be born as a deva, can be born as anything depending upon the karma phala. So, sthanu manye anusayanti, this jiva can be even born as a sthanu, means in a plant, because plants also have jiva. A jiva who travels now, whichever jiva, it may not be, it's not only human jiva, any other jiva, but here we are talking about the human jiva because this knowledge is meant for human jiva. So a human jiva who has not understood the sarvatmakatvam of Atma, when the death of the body takes place, this jiva travels looking for a yoni to get embodied in a different body, including the body of a plant it may get. And then what is it that determines which kind of a body it is going to take? Yatha karma yata shrutam. Depending upon its karma and its knowledge. Yatha karma, according to my karma phala. Yatha shrutam, according to whatever knowledge I have gained. Depending upon that karma and jnanam, I am going to get whatever kind of a body I am supposed to get in the next life when the traveling jiva at a particular time. What is the time when the jiva comes back? When the prarabdhas for the next life have fructified. Out of the sanchita karmas that I am carrying, a part of the karma fructifies as a prarabdha. And in that particular desha, in that particular kala, in that particular vartamana, this particular traveling jiva gets or embodies itself into another body. It could be a human body, it could be an animal body, it could be a sthanu or a plant body, it could be an exalted jiva body. All depends on what? Yatha karma yatha shrutam. Depending upon whatever I have done according to my karma, yatha shrutam. Then in the next verse, again the same Brahma, Guhya Sanatana Brahma Upadesha is going to be talked about here. Yayesha Supteshu Jagarti Kamam Kamam Purusho Nirmimanaha Tadeva Shukram Tad Brahma Tadevamrutamuchyate Tasmin Lokaha Shritaha Sarve Tadunanyeti Kaschana ये तद्वैतत् We'll just introduce this verse because we have only about 5 minutes more. He says, it is the same Brahman or same Atma. When a person is sleeping and when a person dreams, it is the same Atma with the Upadhi of the Swapna Jiva, with the Swapna Upadhi, creates different kinds of experiences for the Jiva. Okay, in what? In this person who is alive. We saw that, and we already saw that the jnani, everything is dissolved here and there's no question of the jnani coming back. Previous verse, an ajnani goes looking for another body and comes into some other body, whatever kind of body it may be, that is there, and the jiva has come back. Then yesha yesha supteshu jagarti. What is it that is awake when a jiva is sleeping, when the jiva is dreaming also? It is this consciousness which is awake, which is aware of the sleeping jiva also, which is aware of the Jagrat jiva also, which is aware of the Swapna jiva also. Yayesha supteshu jagarti kamam kamam purusho nirmimanaha. Kamam kamam. Desires for so many things are brought about in Swapna Loka also, in the Jagrat Loka also. In the Swapna Prapancha also, the Jiva dreams about various desires. In Jagrat Avastha also, the Jiva wants to fulfill various desires, attain various desires. And what is it because of which the Swapna Jiva is capable of projecting a swapna? What is it because of which the Jagrat Jiva is capable of projecting kamas or desires to be attained in the Jagrat Jiva? Sa Yeshaha. It is this Atma Chaitanya, because of which a sleeping person is able to dream and project various desires in the dream state, at the same time various desires and fulfilling various desires in the waking state also. Sa supteshu jagarti kamam kamam purusha nirmimanaha. This purusha, this atma, in the form of Chidabhasa, it projects various things in the Swapna Sharira and in the Jagrat Sharira also. Then Tadeva Shukram Tad Brahma. It is this Atma which is Shukram, which is the purest, which is the shining and the bright Atma. Tadeva Shukram Tad Brahma. It is that Brahma which is the purest, that Brahman which is the light of consciousness. Tadeva Amrita Muchyate. This Brahman is called as Amrita Muchyate. Amrita means that which is imperishable, that which is there all the time. Tasmin loka shritaha sarve. All the lokas or the fields, or all the fields of experiences are present in this. The worlds, all the worlds are born in this, sustain in this Atma, and they are resolved in this Atma. Tadunatyeti kaschana. Nothing can overcross it. Nothing can cross over it. There is nothing other than it. Yetad vaitat. This is what you asked for. It is this Atma called as Brahman in a human being. It is that Atma because of which a Swapna Jiva is able to create Swapna. It is because of this the Jagrit Jiva is able to conduct all the Jagrit Vyavaharas. It is this Jiva, it is because of this that the Jiva is able to carry on all the transactions of the Jagrit and Swapna Prapancha. Tasmin lokaha shritaha sarve. All the lokas are present in this Atma. Nanyeti tadu kaschana. There is nothing which can go beyond this. This is the parakashta paragati. Saha purushaha na anyat, na purushat anyat. There is nothing other than the purusha. Sa kashta sa paragati we saw in Kathopanishad only. In the previous chapter we saw that. So he says, na shrita sarvehe natyeti kaschana yetat vaitat. This is what you asked for, Nachiketa. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.